We're here with Tom Marcello of Green Heat Corporation. Thanks for giving us some of your time.
Thank you.
Can you talk to us a little bit about how Green Heat started?
Absolutely. My partner Mike Horvath, he owns a bar/restaurant up in Minnesota, paying an exorbitant amount of fees as far as energy costs go. You know, tons of propane, which he's running through every single year. Came up with the idea of, all right, how am I going to reduce this down? It's just far too much to pay. So he comes up with this invention, which is what we're actually displaying here at this trade show, which I can kind of walk you through. But that's how the company was founded, just on the sole idea of, let me just try and reduce the amount of fossil fuels and burning energy that I'm paying to a propane or energy company. So what Mike came up with is the idea of, inside of this griddle here, you've got the whole concept behind this is that a restaurant is going to be running their grill, their pizza ovens, their whatever some sort of constant heat source. It's going to be running from morning until night. So inside of this grill, there's a lot of wasted heat. That heat just goes up, dissipates out into the exhaust fan. And the idea behind Green Heat Corp was let's try and capture that heat. And the way we've done it is install heat exchangers inside of the grill itself. We've got, in this particular working model here, I'll just show you that it is actually running. Throw a little bit of water in there. So it's actually a running model. Okay, this has a heat exchanger built on the inside underneath the griddle, as well as a heat exchanger in the backsplash. And what we're doing is running water through those heat exchangers to take some of that unused heat and transfer it to the water. So now you've got hot water, and we're heating up that water and transferring it to a storage tank. So now we've got this big vat full of hot water that we could use for multiple purposes, such as maybe heating your domestic water in the summertime, or in this particular working model that I'm going to show you here, we've got it set up so that it actually can heat your building. It can replace the actual fossil fuel burning mechanism that you've got in your existing furnace. Okay, replace or supplement. Okay. So this actual model here is not what would be installed in a particular restaurant. This is just supposed to mimic what a restaurant would have. So we actually work with an existing furnace. We work with the existing grills. The footprint for our product is actually very minimal. It just goes, you know, there's just piping and stuff involved. So in any case, you've got your water tank we've got installed inside here. You see these two blue pipes that are coming out here. These are running into a heat exchanger that we've now installed inside the plenum of somebody's furnace. Now we could also work with a slab heat system if they've got, you know, concrete slab. We can work with a radiant system if they got radiators, stuff like that, because that's just tapping into the water there. But in this particular case, the hardest one to do is to actually tap into the actual furnace itself. So if you take a look on the inside of here, we've got a heat exchanger that we've installed inside of the furnace. So what we've done is cut a hole in the furnace itself, install the heat exchanger inside there, and attach these water lines to it. So now you've got the hot water that's flowing through that particular heat exchanger that's inside the furnace. Now, when the restaurant, the thermostat calls for heat, normally it would call for the furnace to turn on and get the whatever natural gas or propane burning to heat up that air to blow it through. But with our system, when it goes to call for it, instead of actually turning that, when this is hot enough, it actually just turns on the fan for you as opposed to turning on the actual
and you got these switches over here.
Yeah, this is just a manual way we're doing it. Actually, you know, when we have it installed in a real environment, it just does it automatically. When the fan goes on, what happens is the air blows from underneath, or from behind that, through that heat exchanger, and you've got a ton of hot air that's just flowing through it. As you step back, you can feel the heat that's coming out of there. We can actually work with an existing location, such as the one we have installed in Minnesota that was done on an existing setup. If it's a new construction, it's that much easier to go ahead and tap into all the, get everything set up ahead of time. But it'll work with any grill, any pizza oven, any type of constant heat source. We can tap into that, and then of course any type of heating system that they might have. We don't replace any heating system at all. We're just basically supplementing it with ours, allowing it to either supplement or even replace the existing fossil fuel burning mechanism.
Cool.
Now, of course, too, when it's off, in the middle of the night, if you've got your heat turned down, and if this whole system is off, the regular gas is just going to come on anyway. So it's not like we're taking that away from the particular restaurant. There's definitely that backup if they need it.
When you've got 60 below weather up there, I've got a 300-gallon storage tank in my unit. And sometimes 60 below, I keep the heat down to about 62 at night. It still runs out of that heat because the grill's off.
Okay.
So it's got to have a backup, which is the gas furnace. And again, it's the existing fan being used to blow the air through either heat exchanger, through the furnace, or through the green heat exchanger. So when you're around that zero temperature constant, you just use this. So it's keeping your heat costs way down. For example, mine, I got a cinder block building, northern Minnesota, and I cut my heat costs in half.
Wow.
So it really was a big money saver for me in a really tough economy, tough to make a buck in this business. And if you can take that money you're throwing at your fuel costs, cut it in half, cut it in 3/4. If you can take that and put it in your pocket, put it towards something else, your recapture cost is unbelievable. On mine, the return on investment is right around 2 years. I figure I saved about $7,000 last year on mine. A standard installation is probably going to take about 2 days. This part right here, the furnace part, is the real easy part. That's about 2 hours. Put that in. Putting in the storage tanks and the pumps is a lot of moving, just heavy lifting, moving it, installing it, making sure it doesn't tip over, make sure it's insulated, wiring it, plumbing it. But the toughest part is going to be putting the heat exchangers into the grill, or exchanging a grill for one I've already built with a heat exchanger in it. A lot of times we can do that just if we have the same grill, same BTU, same size, exchange it, have a port charge, make it a lot simpler for everyone. Because a lot of times when we are going to install this, the restaurant is going to be open all day long. They're going to want us to take care of it at night. I just bought a restaurant and I got mad at how much heat was going out that exhaust fan, and then I would burn this out the exhaust fan, then I'd turn around over here and burn the same propane in a different furnace to heat the building. So I said, there's got to be a way to tie that in together. And I've got a wood boiler at my house, so I'm throwing firewood in. I heat my garage and my house. And I just took a lot of those pumps, lines, and I knew enough to, I needed to make it, instead of the wood boiler, I needed to make this the heat source for the boiling system and put the water into that storage tank. And the larger the storage tank, the more heat you're going to generate through the night. So I just kept getting bigger and bigger, and that's what I did.
So when Mike approached me with it, we hadn't talked in a long time. We've been friends for a lot of years, and Mike called me up, and we were just chatting for a while. And he goes, "Oh, it was the end of the conversation." He says to me, he goes, "Oh, Tom, by the way, I made an invention. It actually works." He says to me, and I'm like, "You got to be kidding me! Tell me about it." So he tells me the whole concept, everything about it. I said, "Mike, we can sell this." There are a lot of energy efficiency tax credits available, both from the federal level as well as the state level. We've been giving away some flyers and stuff to people today with various websites that they can go to research that kind of the incentives that are available.
So part of the process is you'd help them, find out what's available in their area. Okay. Well, Tom and Michael, thanks so much for your time.